Hello guys and welcome back to another video. So this has been long awaited by a few of you. This will be the multiplayer stamina series. So in this video we're going to go over some very basic replication. We're going to get the stamina decreasing and increasing, again they're replicated across both this client and the listen server, or the dedicated server if you're using that model. And yeah, let's get started. I'll just quickly show you what we're doing. So we've got the client over here, just running around. You can probably see the log is going crazy, saying this is set and the client replicating the stamina appropriately. Nice stuff, and we'll tab to this one. And this is the server. Just running around. And yeah. That's what we'll be making. So I'll just open up the File Explorer, and this is my plugin development project. So I'm just going to right click on my U project. I'm going to open it with Rider. If you don't have Rider, then you have to double click on the Visual Studio file and open it in Visual Studio. But I'm just going to open it on Rider because I really do prefer Rider. So this is the sprint component. If you just want to copy and paste this code, then go ahead. If you don't want to, or if you just want the sprint or stamina component that works straight out of the box, please go down to the description. There should be a link there for my Unreal Marketplace page, which has this same plugin up for sale. It's only about £5. Any more than that I thought would be a bit cheeky, so that was the minimum I could actually sell it for on that site, so only something. So anyway, yeah, there you go. I'm not going to show you the C just yet. Okay, so Rider, very useful thing that you can do is you can just right click on the source, add Unreal module, on this stamina, replicate stamina, and we're going to disable both of these, runtime default, yeah. And I'll go into what they do, what that does, just so you guys can copy along if you are using Visual Studio and you don't have that option. So what that does is it generates this new module for me. Just go close this down, and just pause the video. Just type this into replicated stamina.h. That should be in the module. I'll also leave a link down below for the Unreal documentation on how to set up a module. These are very useful, because if you wanted to just take this stamina module and put it into another project, so you don't have to copy and paste the code over and deal with a massive complicated mess. You just have to copy and paste the module over. It's all self-contained, encapsulated. It's brilliant. I would highly recommend you guys do your projects like this if you're using C++. So I need to actually include it into the build.cs, my plugin development folder. Replicate the stamina. And I'm actually going to just load and loaded, and it should now load it up because it's being referenced in the build.cs, and then I'll show you guys what else the structure that you guys should be aiming for. Then you guys should pause the video. There we go. Okay, so we have a build.cs, we have a .h and a .cpp in a public and private folder respectively. In the public.h file, this is what you should have: pragma once, core minimal. You need the module/module manager. You need this class, the name of your module, public line module interface, the startup and shutdown module overrides, and in the .cpp file, you need to include it, have all this stuff. Just pause the video, copy all this down, make sure it's the same structure as this, and then it should all work accordingly. So I'm actually going to close Unreal down in the editor there, and I'm going to run it from up here. That's going to build the project for me. It's also going to open it up the editor for me as well, which would then have this module as an option. So this could also be a little introductory introduction to C++ as it pertains to Unreal, or even just a basic beginner introduction to C++. I'm trying to make this as beginner friendly as I can, I swear. I know this was a bit much for a beginner, but yeah, so going back to the project, I'm going to go back to my third person map. We're going to go to Tools, New C++ Class. I'm going to scroll down until we see Active Component. And click Next. Now you should see this here. This should be the default. This should default to your project name. You're going to right click. You're going to select it. You're going to go down to what you called your module. I called mine Replicated Stamina. The help and the stamina modules are in the plugin that I created. So I'm making a fresh new module. That's why it's doing that. I'm going to call mine Replicated Stamina. You can just call it Stamina or whatever you really want. And I'm going to put this in the components folder. You don't need to open this up to select a folder unless it's in the wrong folder by default. Can I? No. Yeah, there you go. So I'm going to then, and I also want this to be a public class. Some people don't like the public and private folders. I do. It just helps me keep it organized and makes it clear as to the header files and the C++ files, like where they are. So I quite like it. Add the code to the project. So this can take a while to compile and add to your project. If you're on a not great computer, shall we say, then this can take quite a while. I think the longest I waited when I was working on a potato was about 45 minutes to an hour. It was really bad. This should also pop up as well, the live coding. I don't really like using it, but so I'm going to close that down. I'm going to disable live coding. Terminate that, so it reloads the project with the new component. Where's the thing? Where's my module going? I'll be back just 1 second. Okay, so I just had to honour the oldest and greatest of coding traditions, which is time to shut down Rider and turn it back on again, and it's back. So that's all I had to do to get this module back. And as you can see, we now got the components right here. I'm going to close these down. I'm actually going to separate these out. So header, that, close that down. So we've got these two. So let's try and get rid of stuff that we don't need. So first of all, we don't need the tick function. We're not going to be using that. And I think that might be it. Oh yeah, task group. This is going to be basically where it's going to come up in the inspector. So if we go to the third person character blueprint, and if I go down to custom, you should be able to see it there. Or not, because I haven't compiled the project with it. You see all these groups here, like you've got the lights here, movement. If I scroll down, you should see stamina here with sprint. That's basically controlled by this variable here. So I'm going to put that to stamina. And meta blueprint spawn with component, that means that this can be spawned on a blueprint. So what else do we need? So let's try and think about what a stamina component might need. I did record a previous episode of this where I went into the planning process and how I think about how to do this sort of thing. If you guys would like to see that, then please let me know. I thought it was a bit boring, which is why I didn't release it, and then I got ill, which is why I discussed this and so on. So, what do we need? We need, first of all, two floats. One to say the current stamina, and the other one to say the max stamina. So let's start there. So we've got a float stamina and a float max stamina. I do have Copilot enabled, which is why that popped up for me. Don't worry if you don't have that, it's not necessary. So, try not to get ahead of myself here. The next thing we need to do is make sure these two replicate. So what does replicate actually mean? It means that when a variable is changed on the server, or the machine that has authority, so either a dedicated server or a listed server or a client in the case of a single player game, then that's replicated to the player, or the client in that case. I will leave below a very good resource on multiplayer, the Unreal Compendium by Cedric. I can't remember his last name, I'm really sorry. Yeah, that's what replication basically means. It means that this variable here, when it's changed on the server, it will get sent to the client. That change will get sent. So how do we enable that? Well, first of all, we need to put a U property on it, and in this U property, we need to let it be replicated. We're getting ahead of ourselves with Copilot there, but let's replicate it on the max stamina as well if you want it to change. I don't. Yes, maybe if you got items, for example, if that changed the max stamina or stuff like that, totally fine. So how do we actually enable stuff to be replicated? Because if we build this now, it should throw an error. I was not expecting 17 processes and actions. There we go. Yeah, it throws an error because we haven't implemented get lifetime replicated props. But if you were to do virtual void get lifetime replicated props, you'd have to generate definition. There we go. Normally that has never popped up before for me, ever. I was trying to make a point about having to include a certain library, all this other stuff, but never mind. So, what do we need to do with this function? Well, I don't know if it matters before or after the super, but I know that you need to do this very important macro, which is do rep lifetime. Yes, there's the header I was talking about. Do rep lifetime with the name of the class and then the name of the variable. I'm just going to Control D to duplicate this and put max in front of that. And I somehow messed it up. There we go. It's probably best to put that in the header file. So, oh yeah, probably get rid of that as well. Sorry, I missed that earlier. We don't need this to ever tick. So, you might think that that's it. That's all we need to do to set it to replicate. You'd be wrong. Because, although you can do this in the blueprint, I like to set it by default here. So, set is replicated by default in the constructor to true. So, this is the constructor, you can tell, because it has the same name for the class and the yeah. You can hopefully see what I mean there. It's the same name of the and the name of the class. It's a constructor. I'll leave some resources down below for C++ and stuff like that, so you guys can look into that a bit more. I'm by no means an expert, but what this is going to do is it's going to tell whatever's creating this, this needs to be replicated by default. And you might think this is all that's needed. Finally. But no. Because even if this component is replicated, the actor that owns this component needs to replicate too, otherwise this won't work either. So, yeah, we should probably also make this, we need to make this blueprint read-only, which will make it so that when we use this variable in blueprint, we can only read it, we can't write to it, we can't set it. And since we probably want to edit it in the defaults, edit defaults only. And give it a category so we can easily find it. And let's just copy and paste this. There are different U function specifiers, as they're called, and I don't really have time to go into every single one of them. That's basically it. So why don't we, just for now, I'm going to set a timer just to basically decrease the stamina, and yeah, what I can do as well is actually, instead of replicated the stamina, if we're doing that, I can show you something else which is called a on-rep notify, or rep notify rather, sorry, which you can do by replicated using equals on rep stamina, and it will throw an error because we haven't actually implemented that, as you'll see here. Yep. So we probably want a virtual void on rep stamina, and a U function on top. It needs to be a U function, otherwise it won't bind, I'm pretty sure. So, what is a rep notify? This is something that when the variable changes on the server, this is a function that will be run when the variable is changed and updated on the client. So we can just very easily print this to the log or to the screen. I'm going to do it to the log because that's a lot easier. So just follow along. It's UE underscore log, and we probably want a log blueprint. We want display. Hey, no. And we want text. Stamina. Percentage sign F. And then close the text macro, comma, and stamina variable afterwards. There we go. So in the begin play function, we're going to get the world, and we're going to dereference it because this will get a pointer. Pointer is just a memory address. We want to get what's in the memory address, and we want to get the world timer, get the timer manager from the world, and we want to set a timer. And yeah, that's reminding me that I need to do some things first. So F timer handle, stamina timer handle, there we go, and F timer delegate. And I need to bind something to the delegate, so I'm going to bind a lambda function. I love Copilot so much. So I'm actually going to there we go. So if you can't see the screen right now, we're binding a lambda function, and we're going to put in square brackets an ampersand with a pair of brackets afterwards, and then a pair of curly braces. We're going to check if the stamina is less than max stamina, then we're going to minus. There we go. Right, set it up. There we go. So if stamina is greater than 0, then we're going to take away 1 from the stamina every time this function is called, and if it's less than or equal to 0, then it's going to clear the timer. That's going to call that once every second in a loop. Because we've got the time handle here, we've got the delegate here. This is how often it's going to run, and this is if it's going to loop or not. What should happen, what I'm hoping is going to happen, is that every second we're going to get stamina is that. And we can actually check that that's on the client. Here's an F string, and we're going to get the net mode and switch and generate cases. There we go. So you want that. You want a switch case, which you get in the owner, which is the only actor, and you want to get the net mode. So this basically gets where the owner is in the network. If it's a standalone, which basically is a single player game, we're going to set the net mode to standalone, dedicated server. I actually have this as a dedicated function in my main plugin, and I'm going to default this to empty. I'm going to bring the log down here, and I'm going to actually pass this in like so. That's how you pass in multiple variables into a logging statement, by the way. You literally just add them on at the end. It will unpack it. It's very nice like that. You do need to make sure that when this, if you're doing a string, then this does need to be a valid string. You can't just do that. That won't work. That'll probably break it. Yeah, that should work. There we go. That's a good sound. So let's try and put replicated. Just one moment. Close that down. Did I forget a macro up here? Let me just check. No, I did not. So might just be that the engine didn't update. There we go. Okay, third person map, third person character. There we go. Stamina component already there. So let's give it a stamina 100, max of 100. See here it defaults to replicates automatically. Go to class defaults. If I scroll down, you need to have this checked. Replicate. Relevancy is something I'll go into in a later episode, but basically the engine does a lot of the replication and the hard work for you, so you don't need to worry about it as much. You can delete these two so you should only be able to see what's actually going on. So weird. Oh, I remember. I know what I've done. Stop that. So, begin play. Do you guys think it runs on the server or the client? Well, that was a bit of a trick question. It runs on both at different times. We need to check that this is running on the server. So if get owner get we need to check if it has authority, and we want to come out of this if it does not have authority. So we're going to put a exclamation mark in front of that. If it does not have authority, we want to turn. And we might also want to put some. I'm just going to copy this and just paste it in here. That looks horrible. That didn't fix it. There we go. There we go. Okay. This is definitely the right. Yes. First delay. Yes. So if the owner does not have authority, then it's going to return. It's going to bind the lambda function. This might be what's messing everything up, but I'll debug it a little bit more before I do anything. Yeah, okay. Let's see what this does. This episode's going on long enough already, I might as well just carry on. This might seem like a very simple feature, but it did take longer than I thought it would to create, and take even longer to explain how it works. Definitely did add it to the character, didn't I? So let me just check. Standalone. Okay, so I managed to fix it. There was nothing wrong with the code. As you can probably tell, I've done pretty much nothing with it. So this is the thing that sort of gave me a clue that something wasn't quite right. This wasn't being displayed on the log. And the reason is, it's such a stupid little reason that instead of warning it was displayed. And this, for some reason, doesn't get printed to the log. Maybe with this, perhaps there's an argument, but yeah. So, if we now play it, you should be able to see here. Stamina 96, 94, and it's been decreased at a steady pace. And you might be wondering, yeah, you might be wondering why they're not decreasing us at the same rate, or at least why it's going from 91 to 89 to 90 to 88, why it's going up and down like that. Well, if you're wondering that, let's just play it again. This one loads in just a second or so after this one loads in, which is why they're slightly out of sync. And if you're wondering why the listen service being called, well, that's another thing about the network structure is the listen server is a client. It's a client that's acting as the server, which can make it a bit tricky to differentiate between the server and the client when you want to work just on that client. In the next episode we'll go over how to make a UI for the stamina so you can see how everything should integrate together, how to easily get the current stamina components or stamina value rather from anywhere in the project using something called subsystems. And I really hope you guys look forward to that episode. If you like this one, just drop me a like down below, subscribe, maybe leave a comment, tell me what you thought of this episode. Every comment, I read through them all. You guys are usually very nice, but any feedback, good or bad, is always useful. Let me know again if you want to see the planning process. It's always good feedback as well. I'll drop that one after the next one if you guys want me to drop it. So yeah, see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.